I was already introduced. I work currently at the Monuments Board of the Slovak Republic, which is main decision-making body in the field of monument protection and preservation. And I will talk a little bit about the industrial heritage in Slovakia. To be honest, I'm not exactly expert on industrial heritage, but I presented this topic on a different platforms already, and I guess that I have some colleagues in the audience that actually can perhaps engage within the discussion. So firstly, I will try to introduce a little bit about the legislative framework of the monuments protection in Bratislava. Then I will speak a little bit about the UNESCO industrial heritage that we have inscribed in Slovakia, which is actually my current field of work. And then I will talk briefly about some examples and then a case study of the city of Bratislava, which I know the best. On the first page, you can see the title page of the methodology that was developed at the Monuments Board 1 year and a half ago, and it's about the approach to the monuments preservation in terms of industrial heritage. I really recommend you to engage with this document, and there are several different others. So I'm presenting our previous work also in here in this manner. So firstly, I will talk very briefly about the legislative framework that we are currently that is in action in Slovakia. It's quite exhausting, so I will put a focus on the main law, that is Act number 49 from the 2002 on the protection of monuments and historic sites. Actually, it's not a bad legislative framework. So we hopefully it will be in action for several years upfront. Now I will speak a little bit about the structure of the administration authorities in the field of heritage protection in Slovakia. Currently, I sit at the Office of Monuments Board of the Slovak Republic, which is the main decision body in the field of monuments preservation and monuments protection, as I already said. This Monuments Board consists of 8 different regional monuments boards according to the 8 self-government districts that are in Slovakia. Monuments Board of the Slovak Republic is a budgetary organization of the Ministry of Culture of Slovak Republic, and there are several expert bodies and monuments inspection that actually oversees the activities of the monuments protection and the Monuments Board in Slovakia. Now I will speak a little bit about the UNESCO heritage site or sites that are inscribed in Bratislava in Slovakia. There are 8 of them, and 6 of them that are inscribed as a cultural properties on the World Heritage List. And I will put focus on the Banská Štiavnica and the technical monuments in its vicinity that was inscribed in 1993. This is very famous site that perhaps many of you or some of you already visited. And what is really interesting and not well recognized, that it's not only the city of Banská Štiavnica, but also 8 different properties and towns and cities that are in its vicinity. And it's the main value is in its complexion of not only the cultural and landscape that is very specific for the mining industry. It's a former mining city, as I shall say, and it's also very specific for its system of water reservoirs and technical infrastructure that is typical for this typology. Here you can see the Calvary at the Schaffenberg Hill, which, as I already said, the Banská Štiavnica is unique with its marvelous cultural landscape, and the water reservoirs that are a part of the whole site. These photos are actually part of the nomination document from the early 90s. And the one like very specific feature that is also part of the site is are the cellars, that basically every house in Banská Štiavnica has some sort of a way to in a cellar to the underground shafts, mining shafts in Banská Štiavnica. Another interesting, or maybe the trait that is typical for this World Heritage Site is that it's really it's a huge area. With the red line, you can see the size of the actual World Heritage Site, which is enormous. Enormous. There are 8 different towns, and with the green line, you can actually see the buffer zone. And the buffer zone is basically the whole Štiavnické Vrchy hills that is surrounding the area, and it's very hard to manage, and it's very hard to deal with in an interdisciplinary manner, and also in terms of UNESCO management. In the early 90s, it was quite typical to be this sort of generous with the UNESCO frameworks of the monuments protection, but currently it's really, we see issues with managing such huge area. Now I will speak a little bit more about other sites in Slovakia and other case studies. This is a diagram that was also published, I think, like 2023, and from the whole of over 10,000 monuments that are inscribed in Slovakia, only 394 are addressed as to be as industrial heritage or technical monuments, but you know, this number is growing in time. Now we'll briefly speak about the typology. I guess that many of you have a much better understanding of typology of technical monuments. So there are three basic groups. There are monuments of technology, and those are transport buildings, warehouses, etc. And then monuments of manufacture. There are different also mines. Also different factories, mills, windmills, and so on. And then we have monuments of science, and it's basically technical equipment, and also some like observatories and these type of architectures. While I was speaking about Banská Štiavnica, it's very necessary to mention also 2 other very important mining city in central Slovakia that basically gained some sort of fame and wealth because of the mining industry in the past. The first of them is Kremnica, which was known for its gold reservoirs, and in few years it will be actually 700 years that is actually functioning. So it's one of the oldest mint coins, or perhaps the oldest in Europe. And what's really unique about Kremnica mint coin is that it was able to sustain its function for so many years, and it's really in terms of authenticity, because function and retaining the function is one of the main features of the authenticity of the site. So it was able to retain its main function for so many years. And of course, the premises, it changes a little bit. They're not exactly the same, but it adapts, it transforms, and it's really an interesting example of such typology and living industrial heritage. The third city that from the central Slovakia, and the third mining city, is Banská Bystrica, which was famous for its copper reservoirs. On the picture, you can see the painting of avant-garde painter of 19th century, second half of 19th century, Dominik Skutecki, which was living in the city of Banská Bystrica, and he, among other motives that he was engaging, he also was painting the life of workers in the copper forges that are in Banská Bystrica. And what is really interesting, I mean, in those times they didn't really have cameras or any other ways or means of transcription of such of such ways, but it's a really interesting witness of living condition of workers in the time, and also some sort of social critique. So, and why I'm showing you these pictures, because they are painted in the in that time famous copper forge Medený Hamar that is located in Banská Bystrica. You can see the current state of the site is not the best one, and is basically fighting for its survival, as we can say. But there are some activities, mostly from the civic sector, to save the heritage and retain its some sort of just preserve to preserve the site in some way. So yeah, we have crossed fingers, so this initiative will be successful at the end for the heritage site. Another example that I have here, and not so lucky, is the coal mining industry in the city of Handlova, because not only Slovakia but also like in Central Europe we have a history of coal mining industry, and now we are in the position where we need to deal with it in a way. So coal mining industry in Upper Nitra region is a very it's a major, or it was major industry in the past, and currently is shutting down. And but there are very valuable industrial buildings left behind the coal mining industry. You can see the shaft on the picture. Then on this picture there's a power plant in the Handlova city. And the third one is the cold mine sorting building in Handlova. Our colleagues in the Monuments Board, they worked a lot to make the buildings national cultural monuments, because as soon as the architecture gained the title of the national cultural heritage, there's protection secured. But as I mentioned earlier, it was not the successful story, because the city of Handlova actually managed to gain the demolition permit before the building started to become a national cultural monument. So this is sort of a sad story. In terms of history of industrial or protection of industrial heritage in Slovakia, it reflects some sort of the history of monuments production as such, because it was also, especially in the past, it was sort of tied to ideology. So prioritize monuments were the ones that were somehow connected to the folk architecture, vernacular, traditional architecture. So the most documented were the one that were somehow part of the vernacular architecture. On the picture you can see the water mill in Kvačany, which is not only preserved from outside but also unique, because the interiors of the water mill are also preserved. And because it's not important only that the outside of the architecture or the construction is preserved, but also what's really authentic and what's really valuable when the interiors are also preserved. So this is the that was the example of the mill in Kvačany. Then another is the mill in or Habanský mill in Sobotište in the western Slovakia, which is more of historical or Renaissance art from the 16th century. Another really interesting examples are the power plants, because in many times they're also still functioning industrial typologies. So in terms of authenticity, they don't only have preserved the exterior, but also the interior, and many times they're also very still in function. So which is also very unique and very valuable. Here's the example of the power plant in Dolní Jelenec. Another example is the hydroelectric power plant in Huncovce, which is also still active with preserved machinery, and you can also visit it in any time, and it's located in the northeast Slovakia in Spiš region. Another typology that I would like to show you is the heritage of the 20th century, or the second half of the 20th century, and it's this example is of transport buildings or transport architecture, and in this case the railway station in Nové Zámky and associated water tank. Because in the second half in the 20th century, these type of buildings were often built, and what is not really typical nowadays, they also or the part of the architecture was this sort of monumental dimensions of the interior and artworks that are really not common nowadays. So one of the recent inscription among the national cultural monuments is the railway station in Nové Zámky, and with the water tank in sort of historical manner or historical style. The second example is the railway station in Zvolen, which is the city that I was born in. So it's one of the reasons that I included this picture in here, but also because it's another example of the architecture from the second half of the 20th century, and the author of the architecture is actually the author of the famous UFO or the bridge of the Slovak National Uprising. Perhaps a lot of you are associated with already. Currently, the building went through, I don't think that very well-made restoration, but we hope all the good will happen to it in the future. Another example is the saltworks in Prešov that have two different saltworks sites. The first one is the early Baroque architecture, with also some of the preserved equipment in the interior. And in terms of protection of industrial heritage, it's kind of easy to advocate its values when you have this sort of picturesque, beautiful architecture that the common folk go and see that this is something that you need to preserve because it's really pretty. Just put in when I put it in a very simple way. But there's another site that was built later in the early 20th century, some so-called the new saltworks in Prešov, and it's in this type of architecture when it's not so visibly or easily explainable that this is pretty, or these are the values, these are the architectural values, these are the artistic values. You need to find a way to advocate those values. So in this case, it's very important to raise awareness of the heritage values in such architectures. And this is the works of the local, I think, art school that are doing some sort of intervention there. So it's also working with the local communities, because the local community need to have some sort of connection with its heritage, and it's about identity and so on. Another example, which is also very recent, is a water tower in Bermnovako. It's a very tiny typology, and last year it won this sort of award of the best preserved monument in Slovakia, which is also, I recommend you to visit this typology. So some monuments have really a nice story behind them, or successful story of success and behind them. So this is one of them, with recent or very modern intervention within its interiors. Another issue that we know within the monuments protection in Slovakia, and I think that also within the Week 4 countries, is the artworks that are situated in the interior, but also on the exterior, not only of the factory buildings, but also the buildings associated, the residential buildings, the administration buildings. So this is also a very successful story that was uncovered in the Figaro factory in Bratislava, because in the past there was some sort of there was a law that you need to when there was an investment in the public sector, there needed to be some sort of a percentage also implemented within the artwork. So there are many artworks built in such manner in Slovakia, but they are not always recognized. So during the restoration or renovation works, they actually uncovered the relief, and with the cooperation of a different subject, it was successfully restored. You can see on this picture the author Jura Gavula of the relief. And now basically the last thing that I will talk about is the case study of Bratislava, which is very typical for rapidly developing cities among the Central Europe. Definitely, a lot of you know the subject of Čierne diery, which is a civil society initiative that started to work with the popularization of the industrial heritage in Slovakia, and in many ways they do it very well. And this may be the lack of presentation also among our institution that might be a little bit improved. But why I'm speaking about Čierne diery, they have very interesting activities. It's about this graphic print called Postkablo by author Daniela Olenika. I bought this graphic print when I was in my first year of doctoral studies, and I bought it just because I liked it, and it cost me 20 euros. And it was auctioned several years ago for 4,000 euros. So you can see on this number that how much their popularization and how well-made PR and well-made social media engagement and marketing made the industrial heritage of Bratislava and Slovakia heavily popular. So these graphic prints, they are collectibles, and they are really worth 20 euros because it's just paper, it's just graphic print. So, and also why I'm showing you Postkablo, because it's very symptomatic for Bratislava industrial heritage. Postkablo is it's named after the factory Kabloka that was in the industrial sites of the biggest industrial site in Bratislava, that unfortunately was demolished in 2010. And basically the story of it's a little bit similar as the Handlova case study that I showed you previously. And it was basically demolished from one day to another before it became a national cultural monument and gained legal protection. So this happened in Bratislava, and this is not the only case. Postkablo or Kablovka was the one of the factories that was in this large industrial area that was in the eastern part of by the time Bratislava, and you can see the Apollo refinery, and it was an oil refinery, and which is really, I mean, I really like this picture because it really represents the city in those times, the rapid development in the front and the damaged Bratislava castle in the background, and it really says about the time, really the urbanism and the development of the city in those times. Apolka was some sort of victim. It was bombarded at the end of the Second World War, and basically there were just a few traces that remained after Apolka. And there are so many different and interesting stories that are to be told about Apolka, but I don't have time to do that, and there are much better experts to talk about Apollo refinery. But when we talk about Apolka, we need to speak about or industrial heritage in Bratislava. Apolka is very crucial. This is a video. I don't know if okay, this you can see the video. This is the site of Apolka and its vicinity and surroundings nowadays. This video was taken in last summer. So under several conditions, it was the site was abandoned and the area for several years, but currently is a place of really rapid development in Bratislava of all the high-rise buildings or all the very expensive residential buildings, and so I will perhaps speak about the details of the video. On the picture, the small building that you can see there, that's a famous Jurkovic heating plant that I will show you in the later pictures, and it really looks some sort of peculiar among the Zaha Hadid designed residential high-rise towers. So there are really strange or perhaps interesting contrast. They are still there, and there are really several remains of the former industrial heritage of this area. On this building on the left, I think that it's supposed to remain a bag of Utah, the material, whatever. I think it's really, pardon me, but it's one of the ugliest building in Bratislava actually. So yeah, it triggers a lot of controversies, and this is the site. I took this photo yesterday, so it's really it's under the construction currently and will be for several years, and so as I already mentioned, the Jurkovic heating plan. This heating plan it's named Jurkovic because it was designed by famous Slovak architect Dušan Jurkovic, and there were some. In that time, it was not really clear if the building will survive, but successfully it was preserved. And also, but this is also symptomatic for the industrial architecture in Bratislava and in Slovakia. That this building is made of this sort of monumental architecture, sort of like cathedral style, and also the language of as it speaks. It's very clear with its expression. So. But it lacks equipment that is authentic for the power plant, for the heating plant. So in terms of it retains the architectural because it's monumental, it's some sort of pretty, it's but in terms of any other authenticity, it's not there already. But the architecture is well made. So yes, I see that the authors are one of the organizers, so I'm not criticizing just the way the equipment was already left when the restoration started. Another example of Bratislava from that area is Cvernovka factory, which was the factory for threads, and this is also very symptomatic and very typical. And in past, it was because it was abandoned area. It's what does the abandoned industrial area do? In also, what are these examples also in world? They attract creatives, they attract entrepreneurs, they attract artists, and they make the places and make the areas cool and hip in a way, and so they attract also any other businesses, and suddenly the whole area is starting to be attractive also for the investors. So what happened here was that one word, just gentrification, that these groups of artists, they actually were sort of they had to move away from the factory building, and some of two or three remains of the industrial area were restored. But what happened here really is that it made the living in this area very expensive, not in terms only the rents and the prices of the flats in here, but also the common cost in living came up, is really high currently. And this is the larger area of what I showed you with the high-rise building. And this is currently one of the most expensive and most rapidly developing parts of Bratislava. In the interiors of the Cvernovka factory was also uncovered this sort of Art Nouveau interesting detail that was restored. So this is just an example of some sort of art value that can be retained and restored also within the interiors of the industrial architecture. And what I will end this presentation with the Winter Harbor, which is one of the last remained sites, industrial sites in Bratislava. And if I would be frank, I don't know what is the status currently of and what is the future of this part of Bratislava, but they are. It's one of the last semi-authentic industrial sites within this area. And there's this one example of restored buildings is the warehouse, so-called warehouse number 7, that was currently recently, I think last year or two, restored. And it's currently a seat of a Ministry of cestovný ruch. One of the ministries that are currently made by this government. So that's another interesting feature. So this is another basically successful story for industrial heritage, or one piece of industrial heritage in Bratislava. And that's basically the end of my presentation. I thank you for the attention, and if there are any questions, I'm keen to answer them.